Okay, fourth reshoot. This is an update of my Lego Airsoft gun that I posted earlier. Um, so I mentioned that there is an update, that the final version is on its way. And, well, it's been put on hold for a bit, but progress is slow. You know, school, work. School's over, thank God. But work just started. So, yeah. This exact thing that you're seeing here has been sitting in my house for, I don't know, a month or so, maybe more. And I decided, I gotta show at least what I have as of now, because some of you guys are probably waiting to see what I've got. So I should give you some food for thought, so you know what's up. Okay, so we have the previous mechanism that you saw in the first vid, the firing pin that I'm looking down right now, which is loaded to the sector gears. There's two sets of rat gears and two sector gears. And behind that last sector gear there's a normal 24 tooth gear. Behind the one that's way inside there's a normal, just plain old 24 tooth Lego gear. And that acts as a anti-reversal latch that you might find at an airsoft gun. And the latch itself is that blue piece. I don't know if you can see it there, but there, it's right behind my finger there. That blue piece. And that is what holds on to the gear teeth that prevents this firing pin from it prevents this gap from closing unwillingly. And the reason I would want that is because, say you pull the trigger and this thing rotates only halfway because you let go of the trigger too soon, then this gap would close on its own because the rubber bands would be really strong to repel the motor force. And that could potentially cause two bullets to feed into the loading chamber, which leads up to the firing chamber, which I don't have yet, but it's easy to make one because it's just a box with a tubular hole going down it. And this is the bullet ramp, and the bullet ramp here goes off the feeding pin. That's the feeding pin coming out right there. So when you push back the firing pin, that red lever goes to that light gray lever, goes to the dark gray lever, which you just saw going up the feeding ramp. See? And this can totally work for automatic mechanisms. Rapid fire, like super rapid fire, like magical rapid fire. So yeah, that's how that works. The feeding feeding pin returns via two little rubber bands that you see there. I know it looks like a rubber band on the camera, but it's two little rubber bands from braces. Yeah, when you have braces, be sure to save your rubber bands. Totally useful. Not used ones. Definitely, definitely new ones. Okay, another mechanism. This white lever that you see here. This white lever acts as a piston that guards the bullets from falling out if you point the gun down to the ground, or just downwards in general. The bullets might slide out, but this lever goes up right before the firing pin shoots the bullet out. This firing pin goes down to allow the bullet to fly out. But while the firing pin is moving back and forth, this white pin goes up and down to prevent the bullet from falling out the barrel, as I said. And it's rigged by these gears. I know it looks ridiculous, but keep in mind that this is a total prototype. These four gears that you see that are around the large motor, they were intended for these motors. I wanted to use this quadromotor structure in replacement for this large motor because I felt that it would give me more torque, but I was wrong. If you hook up four of these motors to one battery, you'll actually get less torque than one of these with one battery. So yeah, that's that. Trigger. Ironically enough, the trigger still doesn't do anything. I did have a version of this gun where the trigger did indeed do exactly what it was supposed to, but the feeding pin didn't actually push the bullets all the way up the ramp. In the previous version that I've unfortunately not filmed of this mechanism, the previous version of this mechanism did not have a tilted magwell. If you look carefully, I mean, you don't even have to see it really carefully, it's obvious the magwell is tilted. And the reason for that is because it makes it super convenient for the feeding pin to go straight forward and up the feeding ramp. The version right before this had a flat magwell, and that didn't work out. But with that mechanism, I found the space to put the switches on this black board that I have with all the mechanisms on it, so that when you pull the trigger, it actually runs it. And the levering was perfect. The trigger was actually angled at the perfect angle, so it felt really like a real gun. But like, I've been recently experimenting what would be the best like angle ratios to insert this switch somewhere in this area, and I'm getting angles of like here, or you know, or even like perfectly like straight down like you see, and that's just not natural. I want it right there, and I actually managed to do that in the previous version, but I had to break it because it didn't work. It just, I mean, it looked good. The motors, all the mechanisms ran well, but the bolts would never shoot for that mechanism. So, about the trigger, I do plan to give it an intricate, I guess, you know, levering system, because this, where is it? This gray axle right here, one measure of it is popping to the other side, as you can see here, when you pull the trigger. When you rotate the trigger, that lever rotates, the axle rotates, so I'm planning to hopefully lever it to the hole in the switch. And the trigger would return by, you know, springs like, you know, like springs like these. By the way, there's two switches. I have a second one right here. I didn't have these, like, I physically did not have these switches when I filmed the last video. And because I saw the need for these switches, I ordered them for really cheap because I had a discount from Lego.com. And the reason I need two is because there's going to be one motor spinning, what would it be? It would be clockwise and this, no, counterclockwise, but then the motor on the other side would have to be spinning clockwise. And in order to do that, you need to have the motor spinning in opposite directions via switches. Because on these switches, you see that little black thing in there? If you slide that to the opposite side, it would make the motor run the opposite direction. So like, if this was clockwise, this was counterclockwise. If I flip the black switch, now this is counterclockwise and this is clockwise. So you switched it up. That's how that would work. And also related to the switches, the circuitry. Right now I have a random battery box for demonstration, but for the final version, you've seen the stock before, but only with one battery box. So the battery boxes both easily slide out. This, I'm still working on how to make this legit, this black thingy there. But there is a nice little skeleton of space there, and this just slides in. And I used to have a flap here that just folds like a Browning, like, you know, the gun called the Browning. Like when you open it up and you close it. I don't know, I played some Call of Duty, so I'm not really a big fan of the game, sorry about that, but I know what the Browning looks like when you're using it. So yeah, that's what that flap would be like, just like a big, and then this pin would lock the flap from opening. And I would put a, there goes the panel, okay. I would put a beam connecting those two gray pegs so that you could turn on the gun from the outside. In fact, you would turn on the gun, I'm hoping I'd make it work like this. You turn on the gun by pressing the stock against your chest. So I'd have a little thing, like a little piece sticking out here, and when you push it against your chest, it would turn the gun on. I hope it'll work that way. I'm not sure if it will, but if it would, that'll be amazing, because you just pick up the gun, and you pretty much don't have to do anything. You just push it against yourself, and it starts working. That's what stocks are for, resting against your chest. Okay, so that's the stock. And by the way, this is totally not the final version of the stock. This is just like a, you know, temporary, you know, scrap-made stock just for show. Hopefully it will work. I mean, well, I don't think it'll work. One thing that does work about it, though, is that this thing is 5 spaces wide, this area. But strangely enough, this thing is, what is it? It's 6 spaces wide. I don't like that. I need it to be 5. And the inside it's 4, but I managed to make it, I managed to extend both halves by a half measure so that it would fit in the mechanism board. Because if you notice, the mechanism board has room for exactly 5 measures going down the entire line. And also, if you look down this whole thing, it has potential to be perfectly symmetrical in the end. So this red lever, there's going to be another red lever on the other side. And you see that there's 2 sector gears and all that. So basically it's going to be perfectly symmetrical on both sides, even on the inside. and that would totally maximize durability, especially internal durability, because I really don't want any of the internal parts getting messed up here. So I should probably run this mechanism for a little bit for you guys so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to turn this on, get the switch. Now I'm going to have to lay the gun vertically or else it might not work. There we go. Yeah, that's going up and down. That's going back and forth. And the feeding pin is also going up and down. And it's locked, thanks to the anti-reversal latch. But if I unlock it, well, first, let's see. See, I can't close the gap. I can't close this gap right here. But if I unlock this, lo and behold, see if it works, it closes. So yeah, that's that. I know you're not going to like me for this, but I can't put bullets in the clip just yet because something happens when I do that. Something that just causes it to not work. Still have to figure out exactly what the problem is. But basically, you know the path of the bullet. The bullet, this is, by the way, this is the actual bullet. It goes up the clip, feeding pin pushes it up this ramp, and then it becomes flat. And right before the firing pin pushes it out, or impacts it, it's going to be blocked by this white piece, which is going to be up. So even if you point the gun down, the bullet won't fall out. And then right as this black piece flies forward, this thing moves down, so it will shoot out. You might want to take a look at the gearing behind this thing as it moves. Let's take a look at that for a sec. Okay. Why isn't it working? Oh. Yeah, the gun clearly doesn't like it when I do that. It was making a bunch of ugly noises there that I really don't like hearing. I hope it didn't ruin any parts there. If I did, no big deal. Figure it out. So the final version of this gun is not going to look all, exposed and, ridiculous like this. I'm hopefully going to cover it up with panels such as these, because the theme colors of this thing are, black and yellow, like Bumblebee in the song Black and Yellow. I'm not a fan of the song, big fan of Bumblebee. Love Transformers. And prototype gun barrel is just going to be like this. I used this for earlier tests when the gun was working with a, I don't know, I was working before, then I changed up some stuff, it was working a little bit better, and then like a few moments later, I got this, and I don't know, this mechanism you see here was working really well for a while, but something clearly wore out. I replaced all the rubber bands, and I don't know, still something just doesn't cut it. So yeah, as you saw in the previous video, these were the bullets I used. The reason I used these bullets for that video is because I don't really care if I lose these parts. These are the real bullets, as I showed you earlier. On the other hand, they're three measure Technic beams. They work much better because they feed into the clip. I can't remove the clip now because it's locked. Now I can. Oh yeah, that's also a good feature. You can't remove the clip unless the entire mechanism has been unlocked for you, which means that there is still potential for there to be bullets in the firing chamber. Like, for instance, if the bullet is halfway inside the clip and halfway in the feeding chamber, and you take out the clip, it won't happen. It might snap the bullet in half, you don't know. So that's another good reason to have the anti-reversal latch. But now, I should be able to just take this thing out. Oh look, I can't, because this thing isn't back all the way. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, same clip as you saw in the last video. Minor changes so it fits with this mechanism. So the bullets would conveniently go in one by one. Here, let's put in a few. I have about 5 more here. So like, what's really good about these parts is that they have curvy edges. So like, let's see, it's really hard to do this while holding the camera. Okay, I put the bullet in. I'm gonna put the bullet in halfway. So like this, you just push, push it one by one. Afraid that if but you're gonna have to hold this side from the bullets from falling out while you put in the bullets. And I can't really do that with my two hands while holding the camera. So yeah, that's that. There's a lot of work going into this gun, and hopefully the end product will be kick-ass. And yeah, so I don't really have much else to say. Please leave comments below and subscribe in case I have more updates to this thing. It's going to be the world's first legit Lego Airsoft gun. I mean, I'm sure that if you guys have looked up other, Airsoft Lego guns, or even automatic Lego guns, all you see is like rubber band powered crap. I mean, yeah, sure, this is powered by rubber bands, but hey, this thing's got a motor. The other ones just have rubber bands and nothing else. Yeah, I mean, really, every single gun that I found so far online doesn't have a mechanism like this, especially like the feeding mechanism. No one's ever done anything like this. And if they have, let me know, because I want to know exactly how they did it, because I'm having a struggle for success on this thing. But I'm sure I'll pull through. It's just that if you guys can let me know if you know anybody or any thing at all about a Lego gun that actually has all these mechanisms or anything like it, like the feeding, like especially the feeding mechanism. This is the toughest thing that I've created so far. If you have any information about anybody who has made something like this, please let me know, because I want to see how they did something this complicated. Because I mean, I personally think nobody's ever done it before. I mean, look how convenient it is. You just pull the firing pin back, and the feeding pin just goes right in. So yeah. Okay. Thank you, YouTube. Have a nice day.